All right, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Reformation Part 2. Remember in Part 1 we talked about the causes of the Reformation. The Catholic Church had kind of stopped focusing on Christianity and was focusing more on wealth and power and had become corrupt, which caused some people to ask questions which the church did not want to answer, like Martin Luther, John Calvin. And then you had the likes of Henry VIII who split from the Catholic Church because he didn't want to be bossed around by the Pope, and he wanted to have more power, have his own power. So that's kind of where we are. So as it goes across Europe, in Germany, okay, you have the Pope here, and a member of the Habsburgs family. And basically what was happening, again, was that power struggle between the church and the princes, the royal families. So princes in northern Germany converted to Protestantism to gain wealth, power, and land, ending the authority of the Pope in their states. So this was all, again, about power. If we split from the Catholic Church and form our own religion or become declare ourselves Protestant, we can have more power over our lands and basically not have to listen to the Pope and the Catholic Church. So that was kind of a driving force during this time. The Habsburg family and the authority of the Holy Roman Empire continued to support the Roman Catholic Church. So the Habsburg family was a powerful group of individuals, had a lot of money, had a lot of power, and they were calling a lot of shots in the German states at the time. And they certainly didn't want to give up their power and influence to others. The conflict between the Protestants and Catholics resulted in the 30 Years' War from 1648 to 1618. A typo there, sorry about that, guys. To 1648. The Holy Roman Empire was the German states, and it was, again, kind of like the Civil War, if you will. The North was Protestant, the South was Catholic. And again, it was all about power. I mean, it started out as a religious issue, but over the course of 30 years, it certainly changed dynamics from religion to politics. Let's see. And again, you can see here, war is never pleasant on either side. A painting. And so it was a pretty ugly time in the German states. France, Spain, and Germany were kind of squabbling over territories. Germany was kind of like a piece of glass that was dropped and shattered into over 300 separate independent states. So it was a very challenging time for Central and Northern Europe, to say the least. And you can see here is that piece of glass as it shatters into all these little pockets of independent states. Some are Catholic, some are Protestant. You got Calvinists, Lutherans. So it was Germany was a very divided state at that time, or a very divided area, to say the least. In France, you had the Catholics and you had the Protestants, and they were called Huguenots. And the Catholics controlled Catholic monarchy controlled France for the most part, and they did grant Protestant Huguenots freedom of worship by the Edict of Nantes. So they did allow them to practice Protestantism, but then they changed their mind and revoked or overturned the edict later on. This guy over here, Cardinal Richelieu, was a powerful ally of the church. And again, it was all about going from a religious to a political conflict. And he wanted the Habsburgs to have less power in Europe. Because at the time, again, a rich family had a lot of control, a lot of influence throughout Europe. This symbol right here is kind of like the signet or symbol, if you will, of the Huguenots who were Protestants. which takes us to the Counter-Reformation. And here we have the Council of Trent. Now, the Counter-Reformation was started in the 1530s by the Catholic Church as a reaction to the rise and spread of Protestantism. And they wanted dissidents, which are people who disagree, and heretics, people who are labeled unbelievers, if you will, or what's the word I'm looking for? Heretic. People who are given a bad name by the church. And they wanted those people to return to the church. So the Counter-Reformation was the Catholic Church realizing, hey, we're losing people, we're losing followers, so we need to either get those followers back and or gain new followers. So the Council of Trent, which was a city near Italy, was basically a series of meetings to reaffirm most church doctrine and practices. Doctrine is beliefs. So basically, they're looking at all the things going on, all their rules, guidelines in the Catholic Church, and deciding if they are good or bad. Most of the time, they were all good, but they did say indulgences were forbidden. Then you had the Society of Jesus, and they were founded to spread the Catholic doctrine around the world and convert people to Catholicism. So, again, if we can't get back all of our followers, we need to go out in the world and find new ones. And the Jesuits, as they were known, or God's Marines, were missionaries sent out to places where they could convert people. Parts of Asia, parts of Africa, parts of the Americas, as those were opened up by exploration. Let me get back here. Got these mixed up. And then you had the Inquisition. Now, the Inquisition was a way to convert people by either torture, arrest, imprisonment, the threat of execution, to give up Protestantism and come back to Catholicism. So it's basically, you either give up your new beliefs, come back to the Catholic Church, or we're going to make life very painful for you. It was used to reinforce, again, Catholic doctrine in the Papal States. And Papal means Catholic, Pope, etc. Now, all this led to very much a changing Europe, which again would set the stage for later conflicts throughout Europe over time. So the fighting in Europe from the 30 Years' War and the beef between the Catholics and Protestants was just kind of setting the stage for more power struggles later. So the effects of the Reformation, we got, at first, the Reformation divided the countries of Europe on religious principles, leading to religious intolerance and war. So at first it was pretty ugly, and then things kind of slowed down. People turned their attention to exploration, colonizing parts of Africa, Asia, the New World. So power in most European states was concentrated in the monarch. So another result was the Pope in the Catholic Church kind of losing their power over most of Europe. They still had power, but it had changed. It had diminished. It had gone down. And kings were starting to rise and become the source of power throughout the European states. Gradually, religious toleration emerged. So people kind of, again, put aside their religious differences and concentrated on daily living, the growing economic trade that was starting to be brought about by exploration. Changing cultural values, traditions, and philosophies. Secularism, we talked about, which is non-religious, growth of individualism. So again, those were pulling people away from the church a little bit, and as that happened, the church's power decreased. You had the eventual growth of more religious tolerance. And another thing that was happening was literacy was slowly growing, or slowly stimulated by the Gutenberg printing press. And again, as people learn, as they read, they start to ask questions, and the people in power may not like those questions, which leads to conflict, which we will get to shortly. The Bible was printed in different languages: English, French, and German. And, the printing press certainly had an important impact on spreading the ideas of the Reformation, the Renaissance. Copies of Martin Luther's 95 Theses was made and spread throughout parts of Central and Northern Europe, gaining him followers, and again, causing people to question the Catholic Church and maybe start their own churches, start their own denominations of Christianity or branches of Christianity. Okay, printing press, more people reading, and again, the whole idea of more people reading was mainly at the upper class level. It was a slow process for the lower classes to gain access to education, to learn to read. Because again, if you were poor and lower class, you needed your kids or whoever to help you work to pay bills, pay taxes, and things like that. All right. So questions? Any questions about today's notes? Anything you don't understand? And please make sure you think about any questions you do have, because the Protestant Reformation is a lot going on, and we go through it pretty quick. So if you have questions, please make sure you ask, or if you want me to go over something, definitely make sure you ask. Summarize the notes. Key points. Purpose of the Counter-Reformation. Again, the Catholic Church was in charge of this one, trying to get their followers back or gain new ones. And what were the effects of the Reformation? So finish those notes up, summarize, questions, and I will see you next class.